Should work. Okay, I think it's working this time. There we go. Now it's working on YouTube. Yay. So hello, everybody over on YouTube as well. Welcome. And if you are on YouTube, go ahead and put your name and location in the live comments, and we will welcome you there as well. All right, wonderful. So we're all here now. And yes, amazing. So everybody, I've been waiting for this day for so long, it seems, planning the Into the Mythica Global Conference for months now, and it is all coming together. We have so much beauty and amazingness and mind-opening, eye-opening, heart-opening, paradigm-shifting wisdom to share with you from the past, from our mythologies, from our cosmologies, the most ancient stories that can help us to remember who we truly are. And that's really what this is about, is a welcoming back to yourself, a remembrance of your deep, deep power and all that we are truly capable of. And so welcome into this space. We are going to be here. We are going to be cultivating and holding the highest vibrational frequency all this week for you to really just fully immerse in, for you to be a part of that heart and soul and every cell of your being, and for you to be a part of this amazing global community. We have people from more than 85 countries who are registered and attending this conference. So just such a huge welcome to everybody all around the world. Now, let me begin sharing my screen with you here and share my presentation that I have for you today. And we're going to dive into ancient Egypt and Göbekli Tepe in very soon, just a few minutes. But I just wanted to share with you a little bit about me for those who may not be familiar with me. These are pictures from some of my favorite places in the world. So on the left is the Temple of Dendera, which is the temple dedicated to Hathor in Egypt. And then in the middle is on the island of Crete. I know we have at least one person here who's from Crete or going to Crete soon. So Crete is so amazing. The goddess is so alive there. She is just so vibrant and radiant there. And so that is the sea that is looking toward the south. And that is the sea between Crete and Egypt, actually, there in the background. And on the right here, this is me near Asheville, North Carolina. An amazing, beautiful, powerful place in the mountains with waterfalls and rainbows, as you can see. So just a little bit about me. I am a visibility and thought leadership coach for visionary entrepreneurs who are ready to shine their light brightly for the world to see. I'm a spiritual alchemist, and I'm the founder of Sacred Planet. And I share shamanic, quantum, and alchemical wisdom to guide courageous seekers in how we can co-create a revolutionary new world in alignment with Mother Earth and the vast intelligence of the cosmos. And I had a huge awakening that took place starting in 2010 at the time that my first daughter was born, Sophia, my first little daughter. And she is a very wise one, true to her name. And really, she just broke open my whole world and made me realize that I needed to change everything. And I needed to quit my corporate job where I've been working in finance for 15 years. I needed to do something completely different. And I really went through quite a dark night of the soul for several years there, trying to figure out what was the new way. Just all I knew was that what I had been doing was not aligned with my soul, and I had to change, and I didn't know how. And I didn't know what would be next. And finally, after much soul searching and reading everything I could get my hands on about all different world religions, what began to come through most strongly was ancient and indigenous wisdom. And I've been following that path and studying with amazing teachers who are bringing the truth to light, bringing the ancient wisdom forward ever since then. And one of my favorite things that I do is to guide visionary entrepreneurs who are ready to be visible to come out and share their light through creating a conference or a summit, much like this one. And it is such a powerful and life-changing and business-changing and confidence up-leveling experience. So if you would like to learn more about that or any of my other work, and I offer many different online courses, many of them are based on donation payments, so you can pay what you want, what you're able to. Just visit my website here, wearesacredplanet.com, and you can learn a lot more about all of that. So I am your host for this week, and I am the creator and producer of the Into the Mythica Global Conference. So welcome into the Mythica, and huge welcome to each and every one of you. We are truly holding hands and joining our hearts together all around the world in this deep remembrance of our ancient truths, the mythologies, the cosmologies, the ancient wisdom traditions that hold the original wisdom that we've known since the beginning of time. And we've forgotten so much of that in the last few thousand years, but the time is now to remember. The time is now to bring back that knowledge, to truly, for us to be remembered, recalibrated, realigned with all that we really are, with the full potential and majesty of the sacred geometrical structure of our bodies that is connected to the grids of the earth and the cosmos in every direction. We are so beautifully woven in to this beautiful fabric of reality, and we can truly create magic and miracles. So this is a welcoming and a remembering and a reawakening of all of that within you. And so the invitation here is to not see ourselves in a time of crisis, right? A time of confusion, which on the one hand, yes, it is. Okay, absolutely. We are in very challenging, difficult times right now on many levels. But at the same time, that's not the only thing that's happening. At the same time, there is magic breaking through. We are evolving, we are changing, we are up-leveling at a far more rapid pace than has ever been available to us before, right? So let's see ourselves mythologically. Let's see ourselves cosmologically, and let's see the much vaster story that is unfolding from within us and that is occurring all around us, right? Let us truly open to all the ways that transformation wants to come through. Because what's happening here, and the reason that it feels so difficult, is that we are dying and being rebirthed into a completely new version of ourselves, both individually and collectively. And we are truly being reformed, remembered, recalibrated, taken apart and put back together. So during this week, you're invited to explore your own personal mythology, how it fits in with this much bigger plan and story that's unfolding, and your role to play in building this new and bright and radiant future. And so I have this amazing quote here from Charles Eisenstein, which is really such a foundation for all we're going to be doing here this week. And Charles says, we have to create miracles. A miracle is not the intercession of an external divine agency in violation of the laws of physics. A miracle is simply something that is impossible from an old story, but possible from within a new one. It is an expansion of what is possible. So let this be our guiding principle for this week ahead and into the Mythica, because now we are here to write the new story. I'm going to share with you more detail about the precession of the equinoxes, these 26,000 year cycles that we're a part of in my presentation today. And you will see, again, as you already know, right? But even more so, the time is now for miracles to occur. And in order to facilitate this great shift that is happening through us, we must be ready to energize the miracles, to recognize them as beauty and magic when we see them, right? Not push them away as a mere coincidence or a mere figment of our imaginations, which actually our imaginations are extremely powerful and needed right now, right? But to really support these miracles that are coming through with our own energetic structure. And so we're going to do that. We're going to practice that. We're going to hold the highest energetic frequency and the highest consciousness in every moment all throughout this week, so we can really create space for miracles and breakthroughs and revelations to move through us, to realign us with our highest potential. And also then from each of us, this is going to ripple out into the collective and supercharge the collective remembrance and awakening that is happening. So let's get ready to dive in. We're going to do all of this together. I want to share with you and welcome everybody who's joining now. And we should be playing on YouTube. Could somebody check and see, if you don't mind, somebody who's attending on Zoom, let me know if you go to the Sacred Planet YouTube channel, is the YouTube video playing? It should be playing now. It was not working at first. And if not, it's okay. We'll just be on Zoom for this call. Let's see here. Okay. So tips for how to receive the most from this conference. The one thing that I want to be sure to mention to you all, let me stop sharing this screen and just share a different screen briefly here. So on the conference schedule page, okay, once you register, so first you want to go into the mythica.com with hyphens, and you will see this page, and most of you who are on here have already done this, okay? You want to be sure to register here. And once you register, you will get a link to the conference schedule page. Now, this is your central hub. So if you're looking for an interview or a free gift, or you want to see if the replay is posted yet, come here to the conference schedule page, okay? And just scroll down to the one you want to see. And so, for example, my replay is not going to be up yet because we're still doing this, but when my replay is up, it will be posted on my page here. My free gift is here, okay? And you can come and scroll to any of the speakers that you might want to see and click there to see their replay and free gift. Every day we will have some live interviews. Today we'll have my presentation as well as Emer Stassen and Katerina Satori. And every day there will also be some pre-recorded interviews as well. So today the pre-recorded interviews will be from Gertrude Nache, Claire Dubois, and Kazumi Okishi. So just follow along day by day. There's plenty to see. If you can't make it live, or you can only make it live to a few of them, that is fine. The replays will be available. And everything will be available to you, so don't worry. And everything is available live for the first 48 hours after it airs. If you would like extended access or permanent downloadable access, you can purchase lifetime access, which is a very affordable upgrade. And yay, so glad to hear that we're live on YouTube. Awesome, everybody. Hi, everybody over there on YouTube. So hopefully that gives you an overview of how the conference works, and we want to make it as easy for you as possible. Also, my amazing assistant, Kayla, thank you. Big shout out to Kayla. She's been huge in helping to organize this event. Kayla is here to assist you. So if you have questions during the conference about anything, technical access, trying to find an interview, you can write to Kayla at hello@wearesacredplanet.com. And she is always ready and willing to assist. So thank you, Kayla, for all that you do. All right, we're going to go back to the presentation now, and we're going to dive into ancient Egypt. One of my favorite realities. There are so many realities. This is something we'll talk about here soon too. Ancient Egypt is one of my favorite realities. So ancient Egypt, Göbekli Tepe, and the 26,000-year precessional cycles, opening portals from our past to our future. Here we go, everyone. Let's dive in. So, ancient Egypt. Recent research is showing that ancient Egypt is far more ancient than was traditionally believed. Now, the image that you see here on the left is of the pyramid texts inside the Pyramid of Unas at Saqqara. This is fairly close to the Giza pyramids. And so these pyramid texts have been traditionally dated at 3500 to 2500 BC. But increasing research from Robert Bauval and Graham Hancock and Andrew Collins and many others are showing that everything constructed at Giza, the structures at Saqqara, and many, many more are far more ancient than the traditional dating that was really done 100 or 150 years ago, okay? Much more ancient than what we originally believed. So we have reason to think that these pyramid texts are far more ancient than 3500 BC. Research is currently being done that will continue to investigate that. But these pyramid texts are extremely magical writings from one of the earliest periods of time from ancient Egypt, okay? And so what the pyramid texts are speaking about is a resurrection ceremony. Now, this was called the Sed Festival, and this was something that all of the pharaohs, each pharaoh would take part and be kind of the central celebration of the Sed Festival. The Sed Festival was a ceremony in which the pharaoh, okay, so a human man or woman, because some of the pharaohs were women too, would die and be reborn. Now, we don't know all the details. We don't know how it was that they did this ceremony, that the pharaoh went to the other side of the veil and came back. Okay, and we know that in ancient Egypt, they had extremely high technology. So maybe this was an entheogenic process, or maybe they had the capability to die and come back, right? And truly be resurrected in the most ancient times. Something that's really important to note is that in places like Egypt and Göbekli Tepe, which we'll look at a bit later here, the further back you go, the more precise and high quality the writings are, the more precise and high quality the building structures and the architecture are. So it's very interesting that it seems that we came from long ago, this high, very high technology point, and we actually devolved as we went forward through these ancient ages. So long ago, when the pyramids were built, for example, we don't fully understand how they did that. And I'm going to give you more details about that today too, right? But just keep in mind, the more ancient we go, the further back we go, we get into a zone where very strange and unusual things were happening that today we can't even comprehend. Okay, so this Sed Festival and the origination of it as a resurrection ceremony likely involves practices that we can't even fully understand today. We can't fully know what was done, but what we do know is that it was very important for the pharaoh when they first came into rulership, and then also every 30 years thereafter during their reign, to go through this Sed Festival ceremony, to die and be reborn. And what happened in that ceremony was that the pharaoh would travel out to the stars, particularly to the immortal stars, which includes Ursa Majora, the constellation of the Big Dipper or the Great Bear. Now, the reason that the pharaoh needed to connect with those particular stars is that these are the stars that never set, okay? Always, every single night in the northern hemisphere that you go outside, and it's a clear night, you can see the Big Dipper. Most stars go through cycles where they're visible for part of the year, and then part of the year they're not. Part of the year they're considered in the underworld. But these stars of the Big Dipper are always visible. So the ancient Egyptians and many of the different ancient cultures considered them the immortal stars. They never set, they never die. And so the pharaoh was sent out to connect with the immortal stars, which was also considered the gods and goddesses and the realm of the gods and goddesses, and then was brought back into his or her body. And being able to do this, to make that journey and come back, proved that the pharaoh was fit to be the ruler, because he could or she could intercede between the humans and the gods and could traverse into the other realms and journey back. So that is what's written about in the pyramid text. Now, what's really important here is to note that every temple, every hieroglyph, every statue, every pyramid holds the energy of the absolute highest refinement of vibration, intention, and consciousness. And so what we can learn from this is that when we create in alignment with the highest frequency, we create magical or miraculous results, such as a civilization like Egypt that lasted for over 4,000 years in relative peace and harmony, and probably much longer, probably back to 10,500 BC, as we'll see in a little bit. And not just the said festival, okay, but every temple, every pyramid is aligned with very specific stars and constellations, as well as with the solstices and the equinoxes, to amplify its power and actually to bring in a specific kind of power. They were aligned to different stars, different constellations, based on what that temple was intended to accomplish. And this requires a very deep knowledge of astrology and astronomy, much more connected with the divinity, okay, and with the cosmic realms and with the energy of the earth than how we use astrology today. But we're remembering, we're starting to do more and more of that. So this energy of highest refinement, highest frequency is really important in everything that we see in ancient Egypt. Also from ancient Egypt, we learn that all understanding is a vast interweaving between the related words, images, and our senses, which we use to interpret them. And we have far more senses than we know. So this is really interesting. When you go and you walk through these temples, okay, when you go and you stand near the pyramids and feel the energy of these places, you can feel your senses opening up to more than just the normal 5 senses that we are told that we have. And my teacher, the amazing Patricia Iwan, who will be in this conference as well, her interview is airing tomorrow. She says that what she learned is that the ancient Egyptians had 360 senses that they could perceive. So something really interesting about this is that there are more and more studies being done, and studies including Project Nature Connect, which is happening off the coast of Washington and Oregon in the Northwest US, where people are being taken out into nature and then observing the different senses that they perceive that they have. And now we have documented over 54 senses that are reported reliably again and again and again when people are taken out into the wilderness and, you know, away from screens, away from Wi-Fi, and just, again, reconnecting with nature and the full capacity of our bodies. We're now documenting at least 54 senses available to us, right? So we have far more senses, powers, knowing available to us than what we have been told. And we have to realize that our understanding of what reality is deeply influenced by our perspective. So that's our culture, our language that we speak. Every language brings a whole different perception of reality, okay? Our belief systems that have been handed to us. And there are many, many other realities available than the one that has been given to us, right? So we really need to deepen into that idea. This is, these are hieroglyphs from Komombo, which is the healing temple right off of the Nile River between Aswan and Luxor. And these lions at the top. So this is lions with heads facing in both directions, okay, and wings. So this is reminiscent of the Sphinx. But what's important here is that there are the 2 lion heads, and the lions are named yesterday and tomorrow. So the one named yesterday is looking to the west, to the setting sun. The one named tomorrow is looking to the east and the rising sun. And that is what the Sphinx is doing. The Sphinx is facing directly, exactly, precisely to the eastern horizon, to where the sun rises on the equinoxes. Okay, and so this is speaking about our perspective, right? And being able to see the past and the future. Really powerful. Okay, real doors, false doors, and portals. This is something that I know Dr. Taria Ward is going to speak about in much more depth, but I just want to share a little bit here. So on the left, we have a false door from the tomb of Princess Sesheshet Idut at Saqqara. This is from about 2323 BC, or possibly much older. And these false doors were placed in the tombs. Now, this is a door that a 3D human, a living human, cannot walk through. But the Ba of the person, the soul, the spirit of the person, once it has left the body, can go through this door. And this is an entry point into the afterlife. Okay, really powerful. And so everywhere you go in Egypt, there are doors, there are portals, there are pillars and columns and narrow passageways to walk through. So you're being asked to shift your consciousness again and again and again, and really enter into other dimensions. It seems like every turn. These are some pillars in the center of Luxor Temple, were built around 1400 BC. And everywhere you go in Egypt, you see these giant pillars, and in the hypostyle halls in Abidos and Dendera, huge pillars. And as you walk through them, they're often in rows of 11, 11 being a very magical number, which points to the precession of the equinoxes, which we're going to talk about. And you just, again, you feel like you're traversing into different realities. Now, really important, all of these temples, so Luxor Temple, Abidos, Dendera, the Temple of Hatshepsut as well, over here on the right. When you first enter the temple, the ceiling is very high. The pillars are massive, okay? And you're entering into a very large space. But as you go toward the back of the temple, the floor gets higher, the ceiling gets lower, okay? The walls start to close in. You are moving into more and more of a sacred and holy space. And all the way toward the back of the temple, in the most compacted space in the back with the lowest ceilings and the smallest room, is the inner sanctum. And this is what we're looking into here at the Temple of Hatshepsut. This temple was built around 1458 BC. We're looking into the Holy of Holies. And so this place way in the back in the inner sanctum of the temple was where the deepest magic would happen. And so just think about the energetics of this, right? We are refining, we are honing ourselves and our energy as we move through the temple and we move to that furthest back, most sacred place. We become more and more quiet. We become more and more reverent as we move through and as we move toward that. So everything in Egypt is built to hold and to create within all of us this highest frequency and refinement. So the technology of the pyramids, there are many different theories about exactly what the pyramids are meant to do and were meant to do. Some researchers say that they are meant to be generators of energy. One thing that's for sure is that there were never any dead bodies found in these pyramids, okay? They are possibly resurrection chambers, you know, with the Sed festival and that resurrection ceremony I was speaking about earlier. That is one of the theories that is held by many, many researchers. But even if we look at not even so much the spiritual aspect of the pyramids, but just the architectural, physical construction aspect. The Great Pyramid over here on the right is made of over 2 million blocks of granite. And these blocks of granite weigh between 1 ton and 25 tons and up. Some of them are more than 25 tons. We know where they came from. They came from a quarry at Silsila, which is about 80 miles down the Nile River or up the Nile River from Giza. We know exactly where the stones were cut from. It's very clear that evidence is confirmed. So these stones, most of the stones between 1 ton and 25 tons, would have sunk any boat that you put them in to try to transport them up the Nile River from Silsila to Giza. So that's the first mystery. How did they get them to Giza? How do they move these stones 80 miles? Then once they get them there, these stones, you know, if you think of a brick building that we make today, it's all straight lines, straight lines, straight lines, every direction. These stones in the pyramids are fit to their neighbor so precisely. Okay, there's not straight lines. They're very, every stone is a different shape. And it is fitted so tightly to all of its neighbors all around that you cannot slide a thin piece of paper between them, any of them. Now, how did they do this? How did they have the precision? What instruments were they using in the Bronze Age or earlier, possibly even hunter-gatherer age, as we'll see when we look at Göbekli Tepe? How did they do this? It's impossible, right? Based on everything we know today. Clearly something more. was going on. Clearly, they had access to abilities that we cannot even imagine or remember. Maybe they were receiving help from other beings, star beings, extraterrestrials. Maybe they had some highly advanced mechanical technology that has been lost. We don't know, but something really special was going on. And here's the amazing Sphinx at sunset as well. One thing that we see in all of the temples is the importance of water to conduct the energy flow. So this is the hieroglyph for water in Egypt and also in other places as well. And so the Egyptians used water to assist in carrying the highest refined energetic frequency throughout the structures of their temples. So they would have water flowing in, very carefully channeled from the Nile or from other river or from other water sources, and it would be directed to flow in a very specific path under the temples. So we don't just have the structure of the temples, you can see, we have the water flowing underneath. And there are some places that you can stand in the temples where the water is flowing beneath and all the different streams of water are converging at a particular place. And because all of that energy is coming together and converging there, you can stand in that place and your body will actually start to go in a circle. It's absolutely incredible to feel that in your body. Here we have Thoth or Jehuti on the right here. This is at the Temple of Edfu. This is a temple that was at this place, and the hieroglyphs, they were speaking about building the temples, okay? And so he is carrying these 3 staffs of water with lanterns, apparently, lanterns on the end. You know, some of the hieroglyphs are still a mystery, what they mean. But this is a very powerful use of water that he's demonstrating here. And it's even like a caduceus or 3 caduceuses made of water, right? Very powerful. Then we have also in the construction of the temples and pyramids, the stretching of the cord ceremony. So this was a ceremony where the pharaoh at the time and the architects would call upon the goddess Seshet. Now she's pictured here on the left. She always has this 7-pointed star above her head, and she is the helper and sometimes considered the consort of Thoth, Jehuti. So she's here with Thoth. Now, Thoth is the god of architecture and astrology and astronomy and alchemy and language and hieroglyphs and mathematics and medicine and many things, and also the god of the moon in ancient Egypt. And she is the keeper of the Akashic records. And she is also the one that is consulted when a new temple is going to be constructed. So they consult with her to determine which stars and constellations or cosmic alignments the temple should be aligned to. And then together with Seshet, the pharaoh and the builders, they will bring out cords, actual cords, and lay them upon the ground to ensure the temple is in alignment with those specific stars or constellations. And this is something that was done at the beginning of building every single temple. This is in Abidos here on the left to show Seshet with Jehuti. But here on the right, we're back at Edfu, and this is the raising of the obelisks, which was also part of the stretching of the cord ceremony. I wanted to show you this too from ancient Egypt. It is extremely powerful. So this is in one of the, this is in the Egyptian Museum, and it just shows how the Egyptians were one with the natural world. So you walk into a room and you see this pharaoh sitting here, and he looks very powerful in his place there, and clearly he is. But as you walk around the side of him, you can't see this from the front at all, but he has a hawk or a falcon at the back of his head. And you can see from the side here and then from the back here. It is extremely powerful to walk into this room and walk around and to see this. Now, the hawk or the falcon was the god Horus. This is the sun god. This is the one who is holding space for each pharaoh to be the ruler, to rule in alignment with natural order and cosmic law and bring prosperity and health and happiness to the kingdom. And so this hawk or falcon is here just behind the third eye of the pharaoh, guiding him, sending him the intuition, the knowing, the understanding of how to carry out this very important role and take care of all the people. It's so incredibly powerful. And the tenderness of it as well. This is something, and the next slide will show this too, the tenderness of this connection between the hawk and the pharaoh. It's so powerful to see. There's just this feeling of compassion and love. I'm going to skip ahead and go back. So these are a few of the hieroglyphs from the Temple of Abidos, and just showing the care and compassion and the tender energy of that we see in the hieroglyphs again and again and again. Now, in many of the hieroglyphs, there is a ceremony or a ritual being depicted, okay, like this one here on the left, where something is being given from one person to another or from a god to a human, okay, a blessing, a gift. She's giving him the Ankh, that is the gift of life. Over here on the right, we have Sekhmet, and she's showing a necklace to King Seti I, but look how she's holding his hand. Isn't that so powerful? And then here, these two that are kind of more in the middle are Isis and Osiris. So you can see the tenderness between them. They are the god and goddess. They are the supreme god and goddess of Egypt. And so she's very often holding his shoulders, or as you can see down here, she will put her wings out and wrap them around him. And this feeling of tenderness and compassion, and sometimes they just have their hands toward one another and it looks like they're giving Reiki, right? So I believe something really energetic was happening here. This tenderness is throughout, and it reminds us of the compassion and love that is truly at the heart of being human, at the heart of being alive, right? Love is what creates all new life. And so this is a reminder to all of us about the new reality we're creating. It must be highest frequency, highest vibration, and that vibration is love. That vibration is the oneness, the force of creation that generates all things. Now going back here, I want to speak for a moment about the goddess Ma'at. So this is Ma'at up in the left corner there. She always has the ostrich feather on her head. And this is her here as well. Now this is the king, Seti I. This is in Abydos as well. And this is Ma'at with her ostrich feather, a little miniature version of her. So every Egyptian child was raised to know that his or her purpose was to serve Ma'at. And she represents cosmic truth and justice, natural order and cosmic law. And every person's role was to maintain the harmonic balance of the universe that she represented. So what a huge message to us here, right? This is still our role, to recalibrate to and then maintain this harmonic balance, because we know our world is very, very out of balance. This is the problem. And so every one of us can choose on an inner level to embody natural order and cosmic law, to embody the highest frequency and bring that back one by one. We do this, and then in the collective, we bring it back. So this image on the right is a scene in Abydos showing the pharaoh Seti I pledging to Osiris the oath of Ma'at. So he is saying, you have given me this kingdom in perfect cosmic order and natural law, and I vow to take care of it in the same way, to maintain this harmonic balance, and then to give it back to you at the end of my life, the same or better, right? In perfect balance. And again, the tenderness, note how tenderly he holds this beautiful image of the goddess Ma'at. Now, I show you so many pictures when I speak about ancient Egypt because the images are a transmission in and of themselves. So really just allow yourself to receive these as a transmission, even far beyond what my words are saying. Okay, we saw those. So just a little bit more here about Egypt, and then we'll go to Göbekli Tepe. So overall, as an overarching statement, we can say the hieroglyphs are portals to a very different way of perceiving reality. And here we have, look at this amazing infinity serpent from the tombs of the nobles. I mean, this is just incredible, right? I just, things like, you see things like this as you go through the temples or the tombs, and it's mind-blowing, right? Like, this is infinity upon infinity upon infinity and beyond. And the serpent is the one who is representing that, right? And look at the beauty of the eye and the head of the serpent. I mean, it's incredibly moving to see these and to feel the depth of knowledge and wisdom that went into the creation of them. Now, the hieroglyphs themselves have so many layers of meaning. This one on the left is the hieroglyph for the letter H, for one thing, and that is called He. Now, this is also signifying the law of eternity. It signifies life force and DNA, past and future, infinity and infinite other worlds and other dimensions. It also represents the fibers of time and twisted flax fibers and the number 1 million, which essentially meant infinity in those ancient times, right? To actually have a million of anything, you might as well have an infinity of it. And so you can see all the layers and the levels just from this one very simple symbol, right? Over here on the right, we have the hieroglyphic word for love. And that is this, it looks like a letter A to us, and then 2 feathers. And so this means love, beloved. It means marry, or marry as far as getting married. Okay, it means a binding together. It's also about sowing seeds for the earth, because this represented the plow that would go into the land and plow the fields and make space for the seeds to grow. And then these are the 2 feathers of Ma'at. So that is about natural order and cosmic law and binding us together under the power of that kind of balance and sacred partnership, right? That is in alignment with natural order and cosmic law. It also represents caring for what we desire. So there's so much. Every time you see just one symbol in the hieroglyphs, there are layers upon layers of meaning. And these are just some beautiful hieroglyphic images, really inviting us into very multidimensional spaces. And Norma D. Ellis, who has written many amazing books about Egypt, says the images form constellations of meanings that can continue to be unfurled and revisited even years later to reveal deeper levels that we did not glean the first time. It is the stuff of poetry. It is how the ancient Egyptians lived. So really receiving that and really just like letting these images sink into you, right? Really letting them integrate into your being and raise your vibration just like by osmosis, right? And we don't have to fully understand what's happening there. We can just feel it energetically. It's like these are one of the things that our mind cannot comprehend, but our heart can receive it, right? Our heart knows how to integrate this. And we can't do it in a thinking way or in a way that we can put into words, and that's okay. Just let the heart take it in. So part 2 here is the mysterious discovery of Göbekli Tepe. And I'm just doing a quick time check here. Okay. So Göbekli Tepe is in Turkey. Okay, and this was ancient times, it was considered Anatolia. Today it is the country of Turkey. This is in southeastern Turkey. Now, this site was discovered by Klaus Schmidt in 1994, so fairly recent discovery, and it was dated to the pre-pottery Neolithic. Okay, so the dates when Göbekli Tepe was constructed, we know that construction began at least as far back as 9600 BC. That is 11,600 years ago. And construction continued until 8000 BC, 10,000 years ago, at which point suddenly all of these enclosures, and you can see that they are, these are each a circular enclosure. This is what we find at Göbekli Tepe is many of these circular enclosures, and we're slowly excavating them and digging out what was filled in. But they filled it in 8,000 BC or so with rubble and with their trash and their, things, whatever they had available to them at the time. Now, we don't know why they buried these structures, but they buried the whole site, which is very vast. It includes, it's at least 50 or 60 of these enclosures, and only a few of them have we excavated so far. So in 8,000 BC, for some reason, the people filled them all in, and that's the reason they are so well preserved today. And also from the trash and the remnants and the things they put in, we were able to very accurately date these structures and to know a good amount about the people and what they may have been doing here. So this discovery completely blows all known conceptions of the time frame of human civilization out of the water. Okay, because as we said earlier, the Giza pyramids and Saqqara, the oldest sites in Egypt, have been dated to 3,500 BC or so. Stonehenge is dated to 3,500 to 4,000 BC. This is 6,000 years older than that, right? And so everything that had been documented, that had been excavated, and the dates that had been set so far up to 1994 were completely obliterated and turned on their head with this discovery. And what we find here at this extremely early date is megalithic structures. These columns are 20 feet high, 6 meters high. They weigh about 20 tons. They are very precisely aligned and situated within these circular enclosures. They are very refined and precise as far as their alignment with the stars, with certain stars, and particularly with the solstices. And like Egypt, the older structures, so the ones that are from 9600 BC, are the most refined and precise. And the technology devolves as it goes forward in time. This is something we see again and again. How did they have such high technology such a long time ago? Now, the huge mystery here is that 9600 BC was the end of the last ice age. And the ice ages are these extremely severe times where people were hunters and gatherers, needing to live in caves, barely surviving, barely able to find food. At least that's what we've thought, right? That's what historians have always said. But now we have this evidence, very, very reliably dated, of megalithic structures from 9600 BC. So how could the people have sprung out of barely surviving an ice age and then all of a sudden know how to build these structures and have this profound civilization constructed here, right? How is it possible? So again, we come back to these three possible explanations. Was there a previous highly advanced civilization that they came from, which we don't yet have evidence of, but where this high technology was handed down, right? Did they receive assistance from somebody from somewhere else other than Earth, right? Extraterrestrial, star beings, or some other beings we're not aware of existing? Or did the people have abilities that we can't even imagine today? It seems like it must be one of these. We don't know, right? It's a big mystery, but more and more research is happening to try to find this out. There are images of a vast array of animals, which I'll show you on the next slide, but they include foxes, salamanders, lions, gazelles, wild boars, numerous species of birds, a spider, scorpion, cattle, numerous serpents, and more. Now, interestingly, 9600 BC, the end of the last ice age, was also the time when the Great Flood happened, the Great Deluge. Now, this is written in the Bible, and it's written in ancient Egyptian records. It's written in many different ancient cultures. Even in North and South America, they write about the flood, even in Asia. So this was something that happened. The whole world was flooded. There was a great deluge. That was around 9600 BC. So is it possible that Göbekli Tepe was a ceremonial site that was honoring the end of the Great Flood and the end of the Ice Age and the survival of all the species that came through it, right? Maybe that's what this was. Who knows? That's one theory. We also have here human-bird hybrid images that match the bird-headed gods of other cultures. So this is something else we see across all continents. We have the Anunnaki from Mesopotamia. We have Quetzalcoatl from Mexico. We have Thoth and Horus and other gods from Egypt. Many different bird-headed gods that are somehow connected to a previous highly advanced civilization that brought the wisdom, like Thoth brought the wisdom from Atlantis to Egypt. That's how it goes. The Anunnaki brought the wisdom from other planets or other places in the cosmos to Earth and taught this technology to the people in Babylon and Mesopotamia. So, sorry, Babylonia and Mesopotamia. So there's so much here that is just very mysterious. And again, it just blows everything we've known out of the water. So every one of these is another circular enclosure that has not yet been excavated. They go on for miles. Like there's so many of them. And so like, I mean, this is massive. This is really massive. And here are some of the animal and human carvings that we see there. So here we have an auroch, which is it's archaic version of the cattle. Okay, this is like an early version of cows. Then we have a fox. There's another fox right here. We have a crane. Here on the bottom left, we have some kind of a predator. It has claws and big teeth. We don't know exactly what that animal was. On the top right, these are what the pillars look like. So they're anthropomorphic. They have a belt like a human would wear, close to the waist area. This is an arm bent at the elbow. And then the top of it is a head. So they are human-shaped pillars. They're 20 feet tall, 6 meters tall. And so that's a big question too. What does this represent? Does this represent the gods? Does this represent humans? We just don't know. It was from so long ago. These are some more birds. Now this here, pillar 43 at enclosure D, is one of the most mysterious. So this has vultures near the top. It has a scorpion near the bottom, which was uncovered and then reburied, which is very interesting if you're an astrologer at all. Scorpio is what we keep hidden. So it's very interesting that they uncovered that and then recovered it again. But these vulture figures, this particular pillar seems to be very important. It has different shapes on it, and the vulture figures this vulture is holding a ball. This to me is very reminiscent of the ball games that we see in ancient Mayan culture. But we have kind of like an adult vulture and then a baby chick vulture, and then the scorpion is down below, right? So there's so much here that's very mysterious that we're still trying to decipher. And then there's been another discovery. There are a few different sites in Turkey, and this is one of the newest ones. Bankuklu Tarla is dated to 10,000 BC. This was a large communal building where people were actually living, and there's evidence there of a sewer system. It was discovered just in 2019. So more is being uncovered. So what we can take from all of this is that the ancient people had capabilities, advanced ways to work with the laws of physics, to communicate with each other, to access information that we cannot even imagine today. And there are just so many examples of this, like Egypt and Göbekli Tepe are just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more. And so a huge part of our role for those of us alive right now is to come back into communication with this divine matrix where all of this advanced knowledge and wisdom and communications are held, because it's all right here for us. It's like it's at our fingertips. It's woven into the fabric of reality around us. We just have to remember how to access that. Okay, and we are here to bring this knowledge back. So put yes in the chat if you are resonating with that, if you know that you're here to help bring the knowledge back. The chat on YouTube, the chat on Zoom, put yes, yes, yes if you are feeling it. And this is why I created Into the Mythica, because we are going to dive into so many different cultures and myths and ancient stories and ancient ways of knowing, and really just allow ourselves to receive it. Again, like receive into your heart. Don't try to receive it in your mind. Don't try to make sense of it. Don't try to put words to it, right? Just receive it into your heart. Let it begin to change you. This is how we open up to all the vast possibilities that are available to us. And now is the time. So yay. And I love all the yeses, all the yes, hell yes, all of all of the very enthusiastic yeses. Yes, aho. I honor all of you. Thank you so much for being here and feeling this and being ready to jump in and explore all of it and uncover it. Now I have just a little bit more to show with you, and I'm not going to take too long with this, but I've got to tell you about the precession of the equinoxes, because this is so powerful and magical and beyond. So, okay, so first of all, though, the sacred sites reveal that which we perceive today as impossible can actually be done. Okay, like how the Giza pyramids were constructed. To us, that seems impossible, and yet they did it. Göbekli Tepe being built right after the ending of the last ice age and the Great Flood. That seems pretty impossible, yet they did it. So we can do it too, right? We can do the impossible. And how do we access this? We must create the energetic foundation for miracles to occur. We must hold the highest energetic frequency at every moment. And we will do that for this whole week. So part 3, again, I'm not going to spend a huge amount of time on this, but it's really key and really critical. So I've got to share it with you. And then I will open up for Q&A here. So we know that the natural world works in circles and cycles, okay? And so this about the precession of the equinoxes is to really tap into cyclical time, natural time, not linear time. Linear time is human created, and even very recently human created, okay? Because the more ancient people were very aware of the cycles and the eternal recurrence of things. As you know, put into words by these beautiful quotes here from different elders. As it says here, the power of the world always works in circles, and everything tries to be round. The sky is round, and I have heard that the earth is round like a ball, and so are all the stars. The wind in its greatest power whirls. Birds make their nests in circles, for theirs is the same religion as ours. Even the seasons form a great circle in their changing and always come back again to where they were. The life of a man is a circle from childhood to childhood, and so it is in everything where the sacred power moves. This is from Black Elk and Oglala Lakota elder. And then Elder Bruce Starlight, a Dene elder, says, the white man's world is square, the natural world is round. And Rumi says, we came whirling out of nothingness, scattering stars like dust. The stars made a circle, and in the middle, we dance. So everything happens in a circle, not a straight line, in a circle. And we are in the midst of these very vast cycles of time that we need to remember to pay attention to. The ancient people did. So in Egypt, in Göbekli Tepe, we see evidence that they were aware of these vast 26,000 year cycles of the precession of the equinoxes. Now, to be exact, it's 25,920 years. And so this is across the board on every continent. We see that these very ancient civilizations had knowledge of what was often called the Great Year or the Long Count calendar. The reason that we have these 25,920 year cycles is because the Earth has a wobble on its axis, okay? And as it spins, we have the South pole here, the North pole here, and the North is pointing at a particular star. Right now, at the time we're in right now, the north of the Earth is pointing at Polaris. So if we look straight up to the north, at night, we will see Polaris. But that star changes over time because the tilt goes in a circle, okay? It goes in a circle. And so at different times, at one point, Deneb, which is part of the constellation of Cygnus, was the North Star. At another point, Alpha Draconis will be the North Star, and so on. So the ancient people, over many, many, many generations, this is really interesting. You cannot observe the precession of the equinoxes in one lifetime because it only changes by 1 degree per 72 years. So from the beginning of one lifetime to another, you would not even notice 1 degree of difference. But when the ancient people were so advanced in their astronomical knowledge that they tracked this over many, 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 many generations, and they could see, okay, that the North Star was changing over time. And the other way that this shows up is that the constellation that is on the eastern horizon when the sun rises at the spring equinox changes. So every 2100 years, that is what changes. And I'll show you that on the next slide. So when the sun rises on the spring equinox, okay, it will be in a constellation. Right now, when the sun rises on the spring equinox, it's in the constellation of Pisces. But we are changing and shifting. The date given in this chart, these dates change from one chart to another. Generally, the time frame we're in right now is where it's going to be shifting from Pisces to Aquarius. And so this is why we say we're entering the age of Aquarius. Now, when we go back in time, if we look at where the sun was, the constellation the sun was in as it was rising on the spring equinox, these times are very meaningful and powerful for what was going on at that time. For example, Gemini was when we were emerging out of the oneness of Cancer and into duality, okay, and beginning to devolve. And that was from 6480 to 4320 BC approximately. Then we come into the time of Taurus, and we see this was the goddess cultures all across the land, okay, that the goddess cultures were very strong. The Neolithic goddess cultures, which were very focused on the imagery of the bull's horns representing the fallopian tubes, representing the crescent shape of the moon. There's so much here. This is a whole other talk. I'm not going to go into all of it. Then we entered into Aries, though, and this is the sign of the ram, and this is the masculine taking over. This is the masculine and war and violence coming in, okay? Then we move into Pisces, the fish, and this started at the time of Jesus Christ, and this started the modern religious structure that we have today. Pisces is very much about consciousness and spirituality. So we're moving into Aquarius. We're moving into an age that is very future-oriented, very community-oriented, really opening our minds to completely new and different ways of perceiving. That's what we're going into today. So again, there's so much more I could say about this, but these are the 2100 year cycles, which add up to the much greater 26,000 year cycle, precession of the equinoxes. So when we look at many different cultures, including the Mayan culture and their long count calendar, this is an incredible chart of the last 13 Baktuns of the Mayan calendar. This latest Baktun ends on 12/12/2012, right? As we all know, 2012 was the end of the Mayan calendar. Then we look at Pachacutis and we look at the Incan concept of time. And again, we come back to this age right now, okay, being the end of a 26,000 year cycle. So according to the Mayan calendar, according to the Incan calendar, according to the Yugas, which we'll see here, we are at the end of a 26,000 year cycle and about to begin a new 26,000 year cycle. I'll talk about the Sphinx related to this in a minute. But when we are at the end of one cycle of time, the end of one age, and entering into a completely new age, this is a time of chaos. Actually, the precessional cycle, so the 26,000 year cycle, and then half of that is 13,000 years. These are always the time frames in which the ice ages would begin and end in the far distant past. These are always the times of major chaos and upheaval of different types. The type that we are clearly having right now is this huge awakening and shift in consciousness and the breaking down of the old patriarchal societal structures that are no longer working. We have the pandemic coming in, which is shifting and changing everything for us in our perception of what is important, matters of life and death. What are our values? What are we really focusing on here? And I'm sure there's more to come that is not yet, we don't yet know. But all of these ancient cultures pointed to right now as this time of massive change, as this time when we are leaving behind an old world and entering into a new world. And so this is why we know for sure that the time is now. Now, for ancient Egypt, and I know what my next slide is here too. We're almost at the end of the slides. Don't worry, we'll do the Q&A really soon. So for ancient Egypt, the Sphinx, as I mentioned earlier, is looking directly east. The Sphinx is looking at the sun as it rises on the eastern horizon on both of the equinoxes. Okay, so at the spring equinox in the age of Leo, the sun would be rising in the sign of Leo. Okay, the constellation of Leo. And so this is what the researchers like Graham Hancock and Robert Bauval and others are stating now, okay, in this much more recent research, is that the Sphinx is a lion. Now, the head was probably not originally a pharaoh. This was probably changed in around 2500 BC to a pharaoh head. It was probably originally a hawk or a lion head, and it's the body of a lion, and it is facing the eastern sunrise on the spring equinox. So it makes sense that that would be constructed during the age of Leo, which would have been about 10,500 BC. And these researchers were ridiculed. And it was, said like, the oldest we have evidence of in Egypt is 3,500 BC until Göbekli Tepe was found. Göbekli Tepe was constructed in 9,600 BC. Okay. And so 10,500 years ago is a very similar era to that, right? And so these researchers now, Graham Hancock and Robert Bauval, are saying, well, if humans could build Göbekli Tepe, they could certainly construct the Sphinx at around that same time. Another thing that's come out with the Sphinx is that there is evidence of massive water erosion on the Sphinx. And there has not been water on the Giza Plateau since at least 8,000 BC. So much more evidence that the Sphinx was constructed far, far, far longer ago than we thought. Okay. But the Sphinx is looking at that eastern horizon, pointing to the age of Leo. And we're about to enter the age of Aquarius, which is exactly opposite that, 13,000 years later, right? So even the Sphinx is pointing to this precession of the equinoxes. And in Dendera, and Patricia Iwan has an incredible talk that she gives about this. It speaks about Zeb Tepe, and this is really beautiful. This just really briefly here. This is on the ceiling of the Hypostyle Hall when you first go into Dendera, all the way over on the left. You can look up and see this. Now, this is the beginning creation point, and things are upside down, okay? Because we have a very different perspective of reality, right? Is it up? Is it down? Is it left? Is it right? It's everything. So we have Hathor. She is the womb of all creation. She is being originally birthed here from the body of Nut. And we have Isis in her cow form, her most ancient form, the sacred cow, which nourishes all of life from above, the Milky Way. And then we have Horus here, and we have Osiris in his original form as a human. Before he was the god of the underworld, before he was mummified, he was in his human form. So this is the original beginning point when everything was beautiful and pristine and full of magic. And this is where we come from at the beginning. And this is what we are going back to now as we traverse this massive change in ages from one 26,000 year cycle to the next. And this is what is possible for us. All the magic, all the possibilities, all of our greatest powers to reopen up again, right? But we must believe in this. We must energize it. We must create it in everything that we are doing. So believe in your highest potential beyond what you can currently see or imagine, because we are capable of far more than we've been led to believe. And all of life is high technology. And this is what I believe that the Egyptians and all of the ancient people were tapping into, right? That we are continually designed to receive a flow of intelligence and energy from the earth, from the stars and planets and sun and moon. Our bodies are sacred geometry, right? We are crystalline. We are sacred geometry in motion. And through our intention and how we hold our energy, we can shift the fabric of creation into the forms it was originally meant to be. We can shift it back to the original beauty. So I will close there for now. I could go on forever about this. Now here's the quote from Charles again, right? And our task now is to create this new story, the expansion of what is possible. So I will stop sharing there. And I hope this has been really powerful for all of you. And I want to welcome your questions. So let me open up YouTube so you guys can ask questions over there. And also here on Zoom, if you would like to put any questions in the chat, I would love to address them. And yeah, thank you for your comments in the chat. It's so fun to share this information. It just makes me come alive because it is so profound. And just I just can't even express how it is to stand in those temples or to stand near the pyramids in Egypt. And to know, so another thing I didn't even mention is that the temples that we see, like Dendera and Abidos, they're the most recent construction version. Okay, so they're constructed at 1500 BC or maybe the year 0 AD. But there are older temples below that and older temples below that, because all the ones that we can see were built on top of more ancient ones to carry forward that most ancient knowledge, right? So you stand in the temples and you can feel like, okay, this is so powerful, what is around me right now. And there's even deeper layers and deeper layers and deeper layers beneath that. So, yes, Jerry, I'm so moved. I feel I have traveled. Yes, it is really so powerful. Janine, I feel the Uranus and Taurus breakthrough in ways of knowing from your words. Oh, that's so beautiful. Thank you, Janine. Yeah, Uranus and Taurus. We are breaking through into entirely new ways of understanding our reality that we live in every day and what we're meant to do here on the earth. Absolutely. Thank you, Peggy. Thank you so much. Let me check on YouTube here. See if anybody has questions. Uranus and Taurus. There we go. Here's a question from Charlotte. Is modern technology bad, as in our natural vibrations being manipulated in a not good way? Well, that's a very good question. And I certainly don't have an absolute answer to that, but I think we do need to be careful how we're using technology. So here's something that's important to know. The technology that we're using today, okay, so like cell phones and Zoom and the ways that we connect with each other are simulating ways that we actually can connect without using screens, right? Like telepathy and these advanced forms of communication where we can speak to each other from different continents, right? We actually know how to do this. We actually have the technology within us to do this, but we've just forgotten. So then we created this other technology to let us do it, but that becomes a little bit addictive, right? Or it becomes a little bit, we depend on it a little bit too much, right? So I think the important thing with technology is to use it in very positive and constructive ways and not let it take over. Right. I have 2 young girls. I have 2 daughters. And so this is something that as a parent, I'm very aware of, right? Like letting them be on their iPads. If they're doing something creative, like they can get on, what is it called? GarageBand and create music, right? Or they might be creating videos, right? And so letting them get on there in ways that are going to expand their possibilities, expand their perception of what is available, right? And expand their creativity, but not letting them get on there and just mindlessly watch shows for hour after hour. This is what we also have to be aware of too, right? So I know when I very rarely ever watch TV. I'm pointing at my TV that I have over there. I very rarely watch TV because I feel like there's a lot of mindless stuff on there. Now there's some good things, right? Some really powerful shows on, but I will more often, listen to talks about ancient Egypt or other things that are really, that I feel are going to be enlightening, that I feel are going to enrich me or enhance my creativity. So I think we just need to be aware. I don't think technology is necessarily bad. I think we can use it for good. And there's a lot more to say about that. Some technology, of course, is being used for bad. Some technology is being used to rape the earth and to destroy the rainforest, and that needs to stop as soon as possible. Or all the plastic that we have that's piling up in the oceans, right? There's a lot of ways that technology is clearly very negative. But the technology we have available and at our fingertips day to day, I think we just have to be really aware and use that in the highest vibrational way possible. Let me see what other questions we might have here. Yes, so Penny on YouTube says the technology can be training wheels for figuring it out long term. Yeah, absolutely. I do think it's helping us to remember in some way. I think it's like part of the stepping stones on the path to remembering our true abilities. So yes, Penny, thank you for saying that. I definitely agree. Yes, Teresa says the difference between poison and medicine is the dose, as with other things in life, in a balanced way. Yes. Jennifer, have you studied any of the ancient rock art in the Western USA and how that might have teachings that relate to other parts of the world? Yeah, so this is something I'm just diving into now, Jennifer. Thank you for bringing that up. So there's I'll post a link to it below the replay when I send the replay out. There's an incredible interview with Graham Hancock where he's talking about this mammoth skeleton that was dug up in San Diego. Okay, so Western US. I don't know. I think it was in the 90s as well, similar time to when Göbekli Tepe was uncovered. And they were digging really deep down because they were constructing a road, and they were constructing below the foundation of the road. And they found this mammoth skeleton. And the thing about the mammoth skeleton was that the bones had been cracked open and the marrow had been taken out. And they could tell from the way the fractures were in the bones that this was done 120,000 years ago. I think it was 120, if I'm wrong on that date, but it was like tens and tens of thousands of years ago. And that this was done by humans. So previously, we only thought that humans had been on the continent of North America since 10 to 20,000 years ago, okay? And this is this idea of the Clovis culture. But what Graham Hancock is saying, we just haven't dug deep enough yet. We just haven't gone far enough into the earth to find, because layers of sediment are added every year, right? And this is the same thing that happens in Egypt. The old temples would get covered up and they would build a new one on top. So this mammoth skeleton with the bones cracked open, clearly by humans, there's no other, even primates don't do that in the same way, crack open bones and take the marrow out. Okay, only humans do that. And so this is evidence of humans here in North America 120,000 years ago, right? Again, that blows everything out of the water, but also research like that tends to get suppressed and not shared with the mainstream because it's so far out of what all the historians and the geologists and everything want to believe. The other thing is that, yes, there are many sites, many very sacred sites in the Western US. Also, new things are being discovered in the Amazon now. There are these cave paintings and different glyphs and things just currently, right now as we're speaking, being discovered in the Amazon that are pointing to there were people here in North America and South America so much further back than we thought, right? And so it's like this whole idea of who we are is being turned on its head right now by the research that's coming out. Ramana says, can you name some of the senses, please? Yes. Okay. So this is so fascinating. If you Google Project Nature Connect, you can find out more about this too. Some of the senses that are reported in this Project Nature Connect include, okay, so, we have our sight, our hearing, our taste, our touch, our smell, right? Those are the 5 that we know. But think about these. So the feeling of being visible to another and consequent need to camouflage. That was one. Another one is the feeling of light or warmth or radiation hitting your skin. Okay, that's different than just touch, right? Like that feeling of the sun striking your face. Is that touch, right? There's like so many different layers to that. I'm trying to think of what another one was. I have a whole list somewhere on my computer, but I'm not going to try to pull it up right now. There was also it's like the feeling of being hot or cold and needing to adjust one's temperature. Okay, so these are some of the additional senses that were reported and have been very, like regularly confirmed or consistently confirmed across all of the studies. It's so interesting. Anna Lynn says, as a musician, I feel that the pyramid stones were transported by sound. Can you comment on that? Yes. So that is definitely a possibility, right? How did the ancient people know how to work with physics in a way that's very different than what we understand today? And so some of the theories were they able to like move it with their minds, right? Were they so high vibrational, so refined in their energy that they could pick things up and move it from just their willpower, right? Could they adjust the weight of things? Could they change the weight? That's another idea around it. But this idea of sound too. So something about the ancient Egyptian temples, the pyramids, all of the structures in ancient Egypt, they are very finely tuned to sound. And I'm actually going back to Egypt again in February of 2022. And I'm going to be on a tour where we'll be working with Ani Williams, who is a temple harpist. And she has deeply studied the vibration that the different temples carry. And they each carry a different resonance. And so when you tone or when you play an instrument inside the temples, it carries and it like amplifies every physical structure, including the human bodies that are in there. So this idea of sound and how were the ancient Egyptians and the ancient people working with sound is extremely relevant. And yes, I do believe that is a very reasonable theory, right? That some of these, the things we can't explain, like the pyramid stones being moved, somehow involving sound, I think that's quite possible. So yes, thank you, Anna Lind, for mentioning that. Yeah, definitely. Love the comments here. Looking on YouTube again. Yeah, really beautiful. Okay. Rachel says, have you thought about other hominid species being in the Americas first? That's an interesting inquiry. I haven't seen that studied. You know, there's a lot of studies of Denisovans and Neanderthals, but this is mostly in Europe and Asia and Africa. I haven't researched other hominid species being in the Americas first, but that would be a really interesting inquiry, Rachel. I definitely encourage you to look that up because maybe you're meant to research that. Yeah, I'm also curious if we have anybody on who is an anthropologist or archaeologist, and yeah, your thoughts on all of this. I just find this so fascinating how it seems like so much of the traditionally held knowledge and even the scientifically held knowledge is being turned on its head at this time. And so I know that's creating quite a stir in the academic communities. And it's just, yeah, really fascinating how so much more is coming out. Anne Baring, hi Anne, welcome. Anne says, I think Nassim Haramein suggests they had a sound technology for moving hoot stones. Amazing. Yes. So Tracy, are you familiar with the whirling rainbow prophecy from the Navajo and the Hopi? I'm not. I'm familiar with some prophecies from the Navajo and Hopi, but I'm not sure if it's that one. So Tracy, if you would want to write that in the chat or just a summary of it, that would be amazing. All right, beautiful. Any other questions? Janine, I would love to know the sound resonance at Newgrange in Ireland. Yes, Newgrange is a whole other story. There's quite a bit of magic there. I have not been to Newgrange, but I would love to go. That is a very powerful place. Maybe Emer can tell us about that. Emer is going to be our next presentation up at 1 p.m. Eastern time. So in about 1.5 hours from now, we will speak to Emer Stassen. And I can't wait to share with you. Emer, are you on here? I think you are. At least you were earlier. But whether you're on or not, we'll talk to you soon, Emer. And can't wait to see you. And there's a saying amongst indigenous people in America, we have always been here, not the Bering Strait theory of migration. Yeah, so it's so interesting, right? Like, where did we originate from, right? Is the Africa story the whole story, or is there much more to that? So very powerful. Okay. Well, I am going to close this presentation now, and I am sending so much love to all of you and gratitude for those who are on live on Zoom and YouTube, and also to those who are watching this later as a recording. I hope you will receive so much this week from Into the Mythica. I'm going to be doing a couple other presentations as well that are not on the calendar yet because I wanted to make sure we'd have time to put them in. So look out for those live presentations on a couple of other days, and also just enjoy all of the live presentations, all of the pre-recorded interviews. They are so powerful. Every single one that has been recorded so far, I've been so incredibly moved. And also, I want to say, I'm sure you've seen in the emails, we are raising funds for Tree Sisters, which is founded by Claire Dubois and has a mission of reforesting our planet. We are also raising funds for a project from Gertrude Machi, and this is a project to provide sanitary products for young girls in Zimbabwe. And so if the young girls are on their moon time and they don't have these products, they can't go to school, they miss out on their education, okay? And also they're at risk for other things happening to them. So we want to be sure to provide them with what they need. And so we'll also be raising funds for that, which Gertrude is so beautifully coordinating, and she'll make sure that that money goes to the right place to get those products to the girls. So whenever you purchase lifetime access, you are contributing to those causes, okay? We're donating 50% of our proceeds from this event to Tree Sisters and 20% to Gertrude's project. And also, I will be providing links in the emails periodically for you to donate directly to those causes if you would like to give more, okay? Or if you don't want to buy lifetime access, but you want to give to one or both of those causes, I'll give you the links for that. So just keep an eye out. And these are really important causes. I just, both of these are in service to life itself, right? In service to the trees and the earth and regenerating life where we need it on our planet, where the forests have been cut down. Let's plant the forest again, let's regenerate. And then also supporting the young girls and the force of life moving through them, keeping them safe, letting them get the education they need so they can go on to become powerful leaders in our world, right? So all of this is supporting life itself. So I invite you to donate, purchase lifetime access, and know that your donations are going to amazing, powerful organizations. And also, if you'd like to give more or give separately, you will have the opportunity to do that for both of those causes. So thank you so much, everybody, for being a part of Into the Mythica. I will see you again soon for Emer's interview at 1 p.m. Eastern time. So again, in just an hour and a half, I will see you soon. Much love, everybody. Mwah.